even are headbands. I look like fat Richard Simmons. Man, what an iconic song. Thank you for joining me again today. And first, don't get mad at me. It's not Racer X. Of course you can play it. But if you haven't checked it out before, I promise it's a bit of a finger twister. There's a lot to learn to get this just right. We're going to talk about why is this so hard to play, why is the tone so unique, and some interesting stories from the recording of the real album, and what gear I used today to get that. And then 3, I think there's some magic here that makes this the sort of song that can't quite be replicated. You're gonna want to stick around for that. Also, great news, the channel officially has a production budget. This cost me $6.31, so that's a thing. So we're in G minor, the dirtiest of all blues keys. To me, this song really feels like an organ part. It's obviously using really common blues phrases and techniques, but it's arranged very weird. The second go around, where you go up to the octave on the B string, that is just not the way you're normally gonna hear a part like this arranged. You need very precise finger control and muting. Of course, there's those harmonics that you have to hit as well. More on that later. Now, I'm not playing this 100% right either, and that's the cool part. No one is. This is one of those riffs that to me is like a Rorschach test. You give it to a guitarist, and you hear how they play it, and you get to hear a part of them come out through the riff. Even Mark himself has changed the way he's played this a lot throughout the years. He recorded this with that banjo technique where you use your thumb for the bass note. I only use my thumb a little bit. This is not a lesson, there's plenty of those out there. I'm playing it my own way, but this could be a good inspiration for you to take on the riff and put your own spin on it.
3 badgers. Badgers? Badgers? We don't need no stinking badgers!
This is a very dark tone, and I like a lot of high end, so that was an adjustment for me. But if you've ever cycled through different IRs and you're just listening like, wow, that doesn't even sound like a guitar anymore, what's going on? You'll know that it's just about your ear getting adjusted. Like in 10 seconds, anything will sound fine to you. I got this using my Revv D20 amp, which has a 2 notes Torpedo-embedded XLR direct out and reactive load, meaning that I can go direct from that into my interface. The amp thinks it's plugged into a cabinet, and I have a beautifully mic'd up Revv 412 in there. Easy. I'm actually using a combination of 2, but kind of 3 pedals. I'm using the Shawn signature tilt overdrive with both sides on, as well as the Rockett Archer Silver. Thank you to Rockett, by the way. Zach over there hooked me up on that Archer a while ago. So I like always using the tilt boost side of the tilt overdrive to control the attack of the note, because you can change how much treble and how much bass it has simultaneously. So I always like to juice the level a little bit with that and just dial in exactly how I want the guitar to feel. I was only going to use either the drive side of the tilt or the Archer, but what I found was the tilt was giving me this big, wide, full stack sound that I really liked, and the Archer was giving me that mid-range that this song really, really needs. So I combined all of them. This is a good thing to try on your own. It may seem like you're getting a little out of control, but you can absolutely stack 3, even 4 drive pedals and get a really harmonically rich and musically complex sound out of it. In post, I'm not really doing anything fancy. It's going into an LA2A just to even it out, like especially if, like me, you're not primarily a fingerstyle player. That will help a lot. And the studio that they recorded the song in had a Neve console. So for my basic little EQ moves, I just pulled up the Slate Neve strip. I left a lot of bass in because this is a fat sound, and then took it out after the fact with the Neve. And then I'm touching up the really important mid-range frequencies to this sound just slightly. For the wet effects, the most component, for me at least, was definitely the plate reverb. I normally default to Hall for most things, especially from the 80s, but there was just that dirty little reflection that I thought was really important when listening to his guitar isolated in the intro. And once the full track comes in, it really helps it sit a little bit. I very subtly mixed in a slapback delay. I don't know if you guys will even be able to hear it, but it helped me dial in the reverb the exact way I want, and then get just a little bit of that pop, that trash right after I play a note separately. Because a reverb can do that, but you would be changing the rest of the way you set the decay. So combined, really helpful. This also has Eventide pitch dialed in on it very slightly. I honestly can't tell. If it's on the album, it's very slight on this guitar. Obviously that was everywhere at the time, but this is more for you guys. Because I'm playing a part of this song with no vocals, and this is for YouTube, I wanted the guitar to just take up a little more space so you can really hear it. It's subtle, and it's more doing a low-end thing, but it's wide.
Next week on U62, he's back. And this time, he's mad. Gandhi 2.
So the recorded tone is a happy accident. Fascinating story. Mark wanted to rip off ZZ Top's tone because they were huge on MTV at the time. I think they did a pretty good job. They were setting up to record the following day, and overnight someone knocked over the mics. When they got back the next day, they set up to start tracking and immediately were like, that's the sound. They could never replicate it afterwards. They even had to retrack part of the album in a different studio later, and they could just never get this guitar sound again. It's one mic in front of the speaker as usual, but off axis, then another mic behind the cabinet, and a third mic just off in the room somewhere. That really contributes to that phasey sound. I hear everywhere that he used a cocked position, stuck wah, Michael Schenker thing. I really don't think it's that on the studio recording. In fact, to me, it sounds like a P90 in the bridge with the tone rolled off for the woman tone thing. And that's what it was. Mark played a Les Paul Jr. on this, so I thought my Tom Anderson Raven from 2018 would be the absolutely perfect guitar for this. This is the first Anderson that I ever purchased for myself in late 2018. Absolutely incredible. I have been, look at that pickguard glare. I have been hooked ever since. These P90s are the best pickups on earth, by the way, I'm not kidding. They're PQ for quiet, they're noise canceling. I would put these up against any pickup for any genre. They just have the sound. The real cool thing about this track is, I think a lot of it was on accident. Now, don't get me wrong, Mark is a total perfectionist. He was known for investing in the band early on to get a really modern sound. This was recorded to digital tape. They spent a lot of time getting the takes right, and I think you can hear that today. It totally holds up. He is really dedicated to the music, but some of the coolest moments in rock history are just a weird take, man. I don't think it's just a tone that's on accident. If you listen to how he plays the main riff throughout the entire song, I would bet at least one of the harmonics came through on accident when he was muting right after playing. Part of the fun is just not being able to replicate a moment like that perfectly. And then all of us, we can try and learn this part that was an accident. And of course you can never replicate that one-to-one, but then maybe we have our own ideas of what we can apply to our riffs, and that's musical evolution. Like I mentioned before, Mark has really changed the way he's played this over time too. Actually, a couple years later, when Weird Al was doing his version, Beverly Hillbillies, in order to approve the track, Mark's conditions were that him and the keyboard player would play on Al's version. So they get there to track it, and it had just been a few years, but Mark's style is so loose and improvisational and groovy that it didn't even really sound like the album anymore. Al's guitarist, Jim West, had practiced it for weeks to get it right for the song and in front of Mark, and and the story goes, it sounded perfectly when Jim played it, and it just sounded different when Mark did. So that's another reason this isn't a lesson. I just thought it would be cool to examine the song.
You get to drink from the fire hose!
Thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed getting your hands dirty with me on the nitty-gritty on this tone, as well as taking a step back in music history. I think this is a great lesson to let your own musical personality shine through. Play the part, try to play it right, but if you want to put your own spin on it, why not? I think that's cooler than being able to play everything note for note. And this song is a big deal, man. It dominated MTV. It was the first digital animation music video. It was either the first one to air or the first one to win a big award or something like that. It stayed culturally relevant for such a long time. And of course, what more can you ask for than having a Weird Al version of your song? So remember to do me a favor today, pick up your guitar, play it, and remember how fun it is. I'll see you next time. God. Oh, it sucks. It sucks so bad.